Okay, so welcome everybody to this class about how to teach English overseas. I'm really excited to talk to you tonight, and I want this to be interactive. So if you are able, as in not driving or doing anything crazy, please feel free to chat with me. You have the opportunity to have chat. If you scroll over the bottom part of your screen, you can chat me a question or a comment. You can set it so that it comes just to me or so that everyone can see it, and either is fine with me. I will get a notification and do my best to answer all of your questions either at the moment, or if I know that topic is coming up later, I'll put it off to talk about a little bit later. So, okay, so we have a recording going. I'm going to share my screen with you. Here we go. And yeah, and we'll go ahead and get started. So the name of this class is called Tips for Teaching English Abroad, and my subtitle is 3 Steps to Making It Happen Without Losing Your Mind. It's a little silly, but the truth is there's so much information out there. A lot of it is conflicting, and there's so many options, and there's so many choices about how to go about teaching overseas. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about our TESOL certificate program later, but I am not going to try to convince you that it is the 100% best answer for every person. During this next hour, I want to help guide you to making your own decisions about how to best make this idea work for you. In fact, to see if it's even a good idea for you at all is where we're going to get started. So I am the owner and director of English for Life Academy, and I'll tell you a little bit more about me as we go along. For those of you who are just popping in, welcome. We're going to get started right now. If you have any questions for me, you have a chat feature. You can go to that chat feature and chat the question for me. You also can unmute yourself, and you can ask me the question out loud. So that's another option, okay? As we go along, I'm gonna have a time for question and answer at the end if we don't get to anything during the class, okay? So if you are here with me today, I think it means that you fit into one of these categories. Either you want to do more traveling, maybe you're feeling a little bit stuck in your day job and you just want to have new experiences and be able to be in a different place and do different things every day. Maybe you feel like you're stuck and you're kind of outgrown the job that you're doing or the place that you are in life and you're ready to try something different. A lot of people come to me who are just graduating or planning to graduate from college, and you are trying to think about what's next in your life. And some of you might be here because you really want to do something now that you can make a difference, that you can affect people's lives. So many people come to me after they've been doing a job where they feel like, I don't know that I'm really doing anything in this world that's of value, and you want to really start to make a difference in people's lives. Maybe you just want to explore and you want to be able to travel more and to be able to see new places and do new things. All of these are great reasons for you to be here and for you to be thinking about teaching English overseas. So welcome, and let's think about what it would be like if you knew the answers. I want you to imagine that you had the knowledge and the confidence to live and work overseas, and you knew exactly what steps to take to get there. And that's the place that I want you to be in when we get to the end of this session. I want you to have some ideas. I want you to have a basic action plan about what you think you would do next in order to take that job overseas. Okay, so this is my, my little agenda of where we're headed tonight. So I'm gonna start with a quiz. I'm a teacher, right? So I give quizzes. I'm gonna give you a little quiz to help you discover if living and teaching overseas is something that's really meant for you. A lot of people come to me and they tell me that they really want to do it, but they're not sure. They're not sure if this is gonna be the best option for them. As I'm going here, I'm reading notes. Oh, thank you, Kelly, for your note. Yes, we will talk about credentials as we go along. Thank you for that. Great. We are going to talk about some of the myths, let's call them urban legends about teaching overseas. A lot of people come to me and they have these ideas about what they have to be or what they have to do in order to teach overseas. And I think, where did you hear that? It's completely not true at all. So we're going to go through a couple of those main myths that I can hopefully dispel for you. We're going to talk about a 3-step process to, I wrote here, choosing the best TESOL TEFL course for you, but it's bigger than that. It's more the 3-step process to really get you from here to landing a job and to moving overseas. So it's the whole process from beginning to end, and I tried to distill it down into 3 steps for you. So we'll go over those. I'll tell you a little bit about our TESOL certificate program, and I have some resources for you that I will send out to you by email. And I have a thank you bonus. And of course, I want to answer your questions as we go along. So that's my plan for our next little bit here. I think we're probably gonna, I know I said an hour, probably 35, 40 minutes, leaving plenty of time for your questions as we go. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about me. Some of you know me. I know some of you, and some of you have no idea who I am. So let me give you just a little background on how I got to do this and what I'm doing now. I put up only fun pictures of myself, I guess, of my travel adventure pictures. But I'm from Ohio, from Cleveland, Ohio, and I never thought about even traveling overseas ever in my life until recently. Well, not recently, until I was in college, until I studied abroad, and I ended up studying abroad in Latin America. I had an amazing time, and it really changed my life. It changed the trajectory of what I wanted to do, what I wanted to see, and what I wanted to experience in the world. When I graduated from college, I really wanted to figure out how I could do more teaching. I ended up teaching English as a second language here in the States. I now live in Greenville, South Carolina, where I've been teaching ESL a really long time. Probably shouldn't tell you. My first year teaching was 1999, and I've been teaching ESL, teaching English learners here in the States on and off since 1999. I started doing it as a volunteer and realized I loved it. And so after that, I went back, I got a TEFL certificate of my own. I got a certificate in teacher training. I then went and I got a master's degree in education with a focus in language learning. So it started for me with the spark of knowing that I love teaching English learners, and I love the opportunities that it provides for me, both to work with internationals where I live, but also to travel and to teach in other places. And so I kind of just kept going along in my education. My TESOL certificate was a really important first step for me in moving along. Over the years, I have also had an opportunity to teach in Mexico, in South Korea. I ran a program in Ecuador for several years running, and I've really had amazing opportunities. And that's why I want to share this with you. Since 2004, I have been running a TESOL certificate program, helping people to get connected with this life as well. People who want to teach English and who want to go abroad. I want to help you get there. And so that's been my main goal for the last 15 years. Besides working with language learners here, my main goal is helping you all get the jobs that you want, teaching overseas and working with language learners. That's a little bit about my background, education, why I do what I do, and all that stuff. So I'll tell you more about me later, but that just gives you a little bit to help you understand why I do this and why I love working with new teachers so much. Okay, I promised you a quiz, so ta-da, here it is. This is very simple, going to be easy. I want you to look at the next slide, I'll show you in a minute, and I have some questions for you, or I have some statements for you. And I want you to read each statement and decide, does this describe me? When I read this, do I think, oh gosh, yes, that sounds like me, okay? You can just count on your fingers how many work for you or how many describe you, okay? So let me change the slide here. I'm gonna be quiet for a minute so that you can read and you can count which ones are for you. Doing a quick example for you. The first one, I can't get enough of travel and I daydream about living overseas. That is 100% true for me. So I'm gonna count that as one. And then you just keep reading and count how many you have. So go ahead and read. I will be quiet. Okay, I imagine you're wrapping up. I just got a note from iPhone. I'm sorry, I can't see your name. It just says iPhone on my side. For those of you that are watching this where it's super late, like Europe right now, yes, I will send you a recording of the video, probably be tomorrow morning. So if you need to go to sleep, sweet dreams. Thank you so much for joining. And when I send you the video, of course, if you have any questions, you can always email me back. For everybody else who's going to stay with us, use that chat box and tell me your number. What's the number of comments that you came up with? If it's too complicated to use the chat box, don't worry. If you found it and it's easy, let me hear how many describe you. As you're doing that, let me just say, if you ran out of fingers, if you have more than 10, then absolutely teaching overseas or working with internationals could be a really great option for you, okay? If you have between 5 and 10, yeah, you're a really strong candidate for this. And this could be something that would be a stretch for you, an exciting new thing for you to do. If you have less than 5, it doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means that you might might be a stretch for you. There might be things that are uncomfortable for you about moving overseas, and that's totally fine. We do things that are uncomfortable every day. But if you're in the like 8+ range, you're a really good candidate for this. So if you've been wondering, I'm not sure, I say go for it, because you have all of the things that it'll take to live and move overseas. I know some of you watching this are already overseas from your home country, so you know you can do this for sure. Okay, so as I promised, I want to talk about those myths or those urban legends about teaching English overseas. So these are things that people come to me with all the time. So number one, people tell me, I can't teach in another country because I don't speak another language. Or, I really want to teach in Korea, but I don't speak Korean, so I'm out. I can't do it. Totally false. You absolutely do not have to speak another language to teach English. Does it help? Sure it does, because you've had the experience of learning another language, and so you can put yourself into your students' shoes then really easily. You can understand what they're going through. You can understand the language learning process. And if you speak that language that your students speak, also super helpful, because you can then switch to that language when you need to, give a brief explanation, talk with people outside of class. All that is super helpful, but it is not necessary. I've never really seen a job posting saying that you had to speak the language in order to get the job. I've seen some that said, it helps if you speak Spanish to get this job, but it's not necessary in 99.9% of the cases. So if English is your only language, that's okay, because you are being hired to be the native English speaker, to be the English teacher, the English speaker. Okay. Number two, I'm occasionally seeing some hands up or some comments. I think you're just experimenting. If you're not and you do have a question, just leave that hand up feature on and I'll make sure to talk with you. Okay, number two is, I have to be an English major or an English genius to teach English. A lot of people come to me and say, oh, I would love to teach English, but I studied economics in school, or I would love to teach English, but I don't remember anything about English grammar. That's pretty common for most native English speakers in the US. We don't usually have a very strong grammar background. And it's absolutely not necessary to have that when you're thinking about teaching English overseas. So, number one, many jobs, most jobs are hiring you because you are the native English speaker, or you are the person who is coming with the knowledge about how to teach English, okay? You will learn these things, hopefully, in your TESOL or TEFL certificate class. One of the things that you should be learning in that class is how to teach grammar, a review of grammar, and the resources on where to find the things you don't know, so that when you get into a classroom, you are comfortable, you know the answers, and the answers you don't know, you know how to find them, and you know how to teach grammar and reading and writing and speaking and listening and everything else. So, do you have to start this process being an English genius? No. You have to speak fluent English and have the resources and skills to teach it later on, which is what you're learning in your TESOL or TEFL certificate class. So that's my second myth debunked. All right, so the third one, let me move on to that real quick. I need to commit to this profession for the rest of my life. Especially when I talk to young folks, recent graduates, or people who've had a job for a couple of years and think, oh, this isn't really for me. I would really like to be doing something more interesting, but it's going to put me off track. It's going to detour me from my end goal, which is a house and a job and a big fat 401k. it doesn't have to. This doesn't have to be something that you commit to forever. Many, many people go into this with a training that lasts a month or two and take a contract that lasts 9 months or 1 year. That's what your typical contract is in most countries teaching overseas. So at the end of that year, you can certainly renew, you can decide to stay at your school, you can decide to move to another country and keep teaching, and many people do. A lot of people I know, they start this and say, I'm just gonna do this for a year, and then they just get hooked and they realize, whoa, I really love doing this, and then they end up continuing their education and this becoming a part of their professional goals. But it's not a commitment that you have to make forever. And getting a TESOL or TEFL certificate in most cases doesn't take you very long and doesn't cost that much money. You get your return on investment within a few months of teaching, and it doesn't have to be the rest of your life. So I don't want you to consider this as a detour, like getting off track, because the benefits that you reap from teaching overseas, living overseas, the benefits are amazing. So it looks really good on a resume. It teaches you how to be flexible, how to be prepared, how to problem solve, how to learn another language, all of these things that you get from living in a new place and being a teacher are transferable skills. So no matter what direction you're heading in later, these are all transferable skills that look good on a resume. So don't think of it as, well, I'm getting off track if I decide to do this, because a lot of people come to me and they're afraid of that. Or, oh, my family doesn't support me doing this because they don't think it's a real thing. They don't think it's a real job, or, there's a lot of reasons why. But it doesn't have to be like this. I know so many people who have taught overseas for 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 years, and that morphs into really other amazing jobs if they don't want to continue teaching. Now, Kelly, I think this is a good time to answer your question because it was about teaching in the US. Okay, you're in Brazil right now. That's great. I was there over the holidays, and I can't wait to go back. So in the US, to teach ESL in the United States, it really depends what kind of program you want to be teaching in. So if you want to teach like in a private language school, there are many of those, especially in very international areas like South Florida that you mentioned. If you want to teach in a private language school, a community college, or a program that's run by the school district, in many cases, in most cases, what you're going to need is a TESOL certificate. And I'll get more into which kind in a little bit. If you want to teach K-12, if you want to teach little kids or kindergarten through high school in a public school, then you're going to need your basic teaching credential, a teaching license. So you can get that by getting a bachelor's degree in education. You can get that by doing an MAT, that's a master's of teaching, and it's usually a year or a 2-year program. That gives you that teaching credential to teach in a public school. There's also another way in, and that is if you're teaching in a district that has a high need, a critical need for ESL teachers. Then every state is a little bit different, so I can't tell you exactly how Florida works, but if you have a critical needs area, you can start teaching with a TESOL certificate because you'll have some experience and that certificate, and then within your first 3 years of teaching, you will complete the rest of the requirements that you need in order to get that teaching license or your state licensure, okay? So if you're looking to teach kids in a public school, it's a little, there's a longer process. If you want to teach in a private language school, work with refugees, work with immigrants, what else? Teach in private schools. We have our graduates teaching in all of those scenarios in a variety of states. So some experience teaching and a TESOL certificate is usually a great way to go with that. Many jobs also require a bachelor's degree as well, because that's just kind of a base level thing to be a teacher in most places. So ask me a follow-up question if you need. I hope I answered that for you a little bit. Okay, so those are my 3 areas of myth that I think most people run into when they think about teaching overseas. So if you were thinking those things, I hope I've swayed you and changed your mind a little bit, that you don't really need to speak another language. You don't have to start out as an English genius, and you don't have to consider this as a detour or make a commitment for the rest of your life to do something like this. It's a great thing to do that leads to many other things in your future. Okay. Oh, I forgot my slide with the big X to remind you that those are the myths, not the real things. Okay, cool. All right, so now here we are in the nitty-gritty of what I want to share with you. Like I said, I've tried to distill this down to 3 steps. And so this is 3 steps to teaching overseas and having an amazing experience for you. Now, this is the part where I say, I want to tell you about my TESOL certificate course that we offer here, but I want you to make the decision that's best for you. So I'm going to give you lots of information, and as we're going, I want you to be thinking about which of these sounds like me, so that you can make the best decisions going forward. Okay, at the bottom of this slide, you probably see a bunch of acronyms, and if you've done any research about TESOL, TEFL, TESOL certificate programs, you've seen all these acronyms, TESOL, TEFL, TESOL, CELTA, all these things. I will tell you that in function, these are basically the same across the board. It depends what country you're in as to which acronym is used more often. It depends on the program itself as to which acronym they use. When schools are hiring, they generally say something like, requirements are 100-hour TESOL / TESOL / TEFL / CELTA certificates. So they don't really distinguish by the letters as much as by what's included in the certificate. And we'll get to that in a couple of minutes, okay? So don't worry so much about the acronyms. It's not so important. These are roughly equivalent in terms of the letters, and I'll tell you how to distinguish them in just a minute. Okay. So first step, if you are saying, all right, teaching overseas does seem like a good idea for me. Step 1 is I want you to do a little bit of future planning. Just pave the way here for the experience you want to have. And I want you to do that by thinking about what kind of teacher or traveler are you? What is the experience that you're looking for? So let me group people into 3 different groups, okay? So let me describe these, and you think about which one of these best describes you. Okay, so the first one that I have is a nomad. So I would describe a nomad as the kind of person who really wants to travel a lot, wants to see new things, and wants to have a job doing that only as needed, right? So maybe your plan is to backpack across Europe, and you're hoping to mostly travel, but you may settle down for a month or 2 and decide to work somewhere. And that could be teaching English. And it might be nice to have a TESOL or TEFL certificate in your pocket in order to do that and get a better job and a better paying job and all of those things. So nomad, someone, really the focus is on travel, but you know, you might need to pick up some jobs along the way, okay? That might sound like you. Keep that one in mind. My middle range person here, I'm calling the adopter. And this is someone that I would describe as someone who really wants to experience a new place and to really become part of that community, even if it's only for a short time. So maybe you want to stay somewhere for somewhere between 3 months and a year, let's say. You think about having your own place, getting to know the people in your neighborhood, you know, being able to shop in your grocery store, going to work and having colleagues, making friends, learning a language, and really understanding a place in a little bit of a deeper level than you can get if you're just traveling through backpacking, that kind of thing. Okay. Again, this isn't a commitment for life, but you're just, you know, you really kind of want to get to know that place a little bit more. I have that experience in Ecuador because I run a program there, and I go there for several months every year. And I love it because even though I don't have my own place, I rent an apartment, and it might be in a different part of town. I go to my job at my school, and I have my colleagues, and I have my group of friends, and I have my grocery store, and I have the park that I like to go to, and it's like a second home. And so if that sounds good to you, if that speaks to you, then maybe you're an adopter. Okay, my third category of people is an academic. So this is someone who really, this is the English nerd, right? This is the grammar geek. I'm kind of like that too. Really, you want to learn about linguistics, language acquisition. How do people really learn languages? You like getting into the meat and understanding the grammar and understanding how the process works. And maybe you want to work in higher education. Maybe your goal is to teach at a university or to teach higher level English classes. You may want to travel too. I'm not saying you can't travel, but you're really drawn to understanding the language and the teacher side of things more than the travel side of things. Okay, so think about it for a minute. Take a couple seconds and think about which one best describes you. Or maybe you have two that describe you well. Okay. Now, the reason that I'm asking you this is because this is going to help you to find the program that will deliver the results that you want to have. Okay, so there are, I think I make another video about this because it's a topic that has a lot of details, but there's so many different kinds of TESOL, TEFL certificate programs. Everything from like, okay, actually there was one on Groupon for $60 once that I bought because I was just curious to know how could that possibly work? What do they give you for $60? So you can do like an online, really short, really quick class, and it can be called a TEFL certificate. And on the complete other end, you can do a TEFL or TESOL certificate program that takes a year to complete through a university where you're taking a series of semester-long classes. And that may cost you up to, I mean, it could be, you know, $1,000 per course if it's like a 23-hour. It could cost you, you know, $10,000, and it's still a TESOL certificate. So there's a really wide range, but there's not one right answer, okay? I'm in a group, I'm in a lot of groups on, you know, Facebook and all these groups of English teachers and language teachers, and people are always fighting about, you know, what is the training that you have to have. And I think you really have to go by knowing what your end goal is and finding the training that works best for you in order to accomplish what you want to accomplish and get the kind of job that you want to get. So I'm going to leave it at that, okay? But there are some things that you want to keep in mind when you're choosing a program. And for those of you that have done research already on this, I'm sure that these things have come up in your questions and figuring out what's going on. If you haven't, then this might be new to you, and I'll just give you a little bit of idea about what these things mean, okay? And of course, please write your questions to me so that I can answer them as we go, okay? All right, so one of the things that comes up a lot now is online programs versus face-to-face programs. There are lots of online TEFL certificate programs now, more and more every day, and there's still some that meet entirely face-to-face or are a hybrid, so they're partially face-to-face and partially online. A lot of jobs, a lot of employers are still only hiring people that have face-to-face training. And so again, depends the kind of job you're looking for, depends the place that you want to be, what country you want to be in. But many employers still want to know that you did face-to-face training. It's just, look, we only offer hybrid or fully face-to-face programs where I teach, because I don't know how to certify that someone I've never met and is only in an online environment that I can say, oh yes, this person is a great teacher, stamp. I can't tell. And I want to know that everybody that graduates from our program is a great teacher, and that they're getting feedback from the teachers in the program, and that they're learning how to do this better and better every time. So that's why a lot of employers want to know you did a face-to-face program, because they want to know you got feedback and that you've had experience in a classroom. Okay, second one that people ask me about a lot is a money-back guarantee. So there are some programs out there that say that you can get a money-back guarantee if you don't get a job. Okay, fair enough. But I will argue that there are hundreds of thousands of English teaching jobs out there, and you're going to get one. Getting the job is not the problem at all. There are so many jobs available. If you're looking at a program with the money-back guarantee, and that's really an important piece to you, I would suggest that you read the fine print and understand exactly what that means. I've looked up the fine print, what do you do to get a money back guarantee in some of these programs, and it's kind of impossible to provide the documentation that they're asking for in order to get your money back. So I would say, if it's important to you, make sure that it's doable. But honestly, if you get through a TESOL certificate course and you pass it and you're getting feedback from real teachers, you're not going to need a money back guarantee. You're going to be able to find a job. Okay. Length and cost of the program. I already talked about the variety. There's so much variety. But most employers are looking for a certificate course that is 100 hours or more. That's just the number many people have settled on. Some big programs in some countries actually will only accept a certificate with 100 or more hours. So you want to look for something at 100 hours plus if you're looking for a more secure job or jobs in certain countries. Cost, of course, that goes with the length. So a shorter course may cost, around $1,000, maybe $500 or $600 if it's fully online and you're not really getting any feedback from anyone. On the other end, the big university ones may cost up to $10,000. So you have a really wide range. A certificate program in the 100-hour range, the kind that we kind of fit into, you're probably looking at around $2,000 to $5,000 is the range that last I checked, which was a few months ago. I try to keep up on what's out there and what's available. Between $2,000 and $5,000 is probably what you can expect to pay for a program that's 100 plus hours with a practicum, where you're really getting feedback from teachers and working with real professionals. So that's length and cost. I'm gonna check my chat box real quick, take a sip of tea because I'm talking a lot. All right, Kelly, let me get back to your next question in a little bit. That's a good one. That is what I do as well here. So, all right, so accreditation. You're gonna see some programs say that they are accredited, and and say that that's the most important thing. I think it is super important that somebody outside of the person who created the program is giving verification that this is a legit program and that it works and that it's held to certain standards. That can be done through an accreditation process. But accreditation isn't something that is just bestowed upon you after you've been to school for 3 years and you have all of these things, you're accredited, you get the stamp of accreditation. It doesn't work that way. It works, a school has to apply for accreditation. It takes 3 to 5 years to go through the process. It costs a good deal of money in order to go through all of the steps in order to get accredited. And at the end, then you can say you're accredited by a certain organization. And there's nothing wrong with that. It proves that you've reached some certain standards in your program. How we've decided to do it is to work in partnership with universities. So that's another thing that you may see that TESOL certificate programs have, is they partner with a university, and so in that way they are accredited through the university, or their courses have to meet the requirements and the standards of the professional program that they are in. So that is how we work ours. We work with the College of Charleston and with Greenville Tech, and every 2 years have to resubmit our syllabus and the teacher information that we can still continue to be adjunct faculty there. And it's a good way for us to keep our standards high and to make sure that we fit into all of the standards of the School of Education at a university. So that's something to think about. It doesn't have to say accredited, but there should be somebody probably giving you information about or checking in on the information about the class. All right, job placement or job resources. There are some schools that offer job placement, and that's totally fine if you want to go to one of the places that the school is offering placement in. Does that make sense? So job placement means you're going to go to this place. Okay, that's fine. But like I said, there's really hundreds of thousands of jobs out there, and job resources may be just as valuable as job placement, if not more. If you're going through this process of really figuring out what you want, what kind of experience you want, where you want to be, then the job resources are probably more valuable to you. How to write a resume, how to do an interview, lists of online resources on where you can look for jobs. All of these things, really finding the job in the end is not the hard part. So resources, I think, are super important. If you want guaranteed placement, then look for job placement as well. And last is just something like a word of advice for you. Just research your options. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask to talk to someone who graduated from that program. Ask to talk to one of the teachers. See where the people who are graduating are working. What have they done, with their TESOL certificate? Have they been able to find jobs? It's, absolutely no problem to ask to talk to a graduate or someone else. There's so many options, and where you put your time and your money, it's up to you. So make a good decision by asking good questions. So those are some things to keep in mind as you're figuring out how you want to move toward that job overseas. I would say that any training program that you want to do should give you at least the tools to be a good teacher. That's the point, right? Resources for finding a job, and some experience teaching through a practicum component or practice teaching or something. You should be able to leave that class with experience. Okay, so just a quick overview, because that was a lot of talking and a lot of different things. The three main things I would say that most employers want to see is that you have had face-to-face learning hours, not taken an entirely online course, that you have at least 6 hours, I don't know how they came up with that number, but I see it repeated a lot, at least 6 hours of a supervised teaching practicum, and that the certificate is a 100-hour certificate. So you can jot that down, and as you're looking at different programs, this is a good baseline to go for. Now, if you fall really in that nomad category and you're more thinking like, okay, I just want to travel and I want to have the certificate, then, these things may not be as important depending where you are. In some places, you're not going to get any job without a TESOL certificate. In some places, it doesn't matter. In some places, you don't need a TESOL certificate. So if you fall in that nomad category of, I just want to have an adventure, go to a place that you can teach without a certificate, and you don't have to do this at all. So it's really up to you and your personality. For me personally, I love to know what I'm doing. If I'm going to teach overseas, I want to enjoy my time there. I want to have a great adventure there. I don't want to spend all my waking hours trying to figure out how to do a job that I'm not comfortable doing. So I'd much rather have my toolbox full and ready to go by the time I get on that plane to get a teaching job. Okay, guys, we're almost done. So 3 steps, we're almost to step 3, but let me give you a little bit of information about our TESOL certificate course, just so you can see where it falls in the line of things. So this is what is included with our course. When I first started this program, it was all about being the best teacher. And I ignored the things about how to get a job and how to figure out where you want to go. But that was 10 years ago. And now I really hope to offer to people the whole process. So we start with 2 coaching sessions that kind of walk you through these things we're talking about today, getting yourself organized and starting your job search. It's a 100-hour TESOL certificate course with a 30-hour supervised practicum. All of your course materials except for 1 textbook are included in the price of the course, including lifetime access, both to the online version and the face-to-face version. You can always come back and sit in on a class with us anytime you want. And any updates that we do, they're yours in the online version. You can always log back in and see what new things we've added and have access to those as well. I mentioned that we work with the College of Charleston, so you can actually get 6 graduate credits through the Department of Professional Development in Education at the College of Charleston just by taking this course successfully. So you can get graduate credits. That could be useful if you decide you want to go to graduate school at some point. These credits may be able to transfer to the program that you are transferring into. It totally depends on the school that you're going to, right? I have no say in it, but I can tell you that some folks have saved. I had someone who all her credits transferred in, and she saved probably $15,000. She actually got rid of a whole semester of class, so it can be really helpful. We have a resume writing workshop on how to write international resumes, and we have a professional resume writer on staff who will meet with you one-on-one to make sure your resume looks great and gets you the interview that you want to have. We have a community of all of our graduates. Right now it's a Facebook group, a private Facebook group, and when people let me know that jobs are available, I post them in that group. We talk about lessons and ideas and activities and, you know, the silly things people talk about on Facebook. And also that's where we post any job postings that are coming up. We're always doing professional development workshops and other courses. And of course, once you take the TESOL course, you have easy access and discounts to all of those things as well. Okay, so that's a little bit about what we offer and what I think is important for teaching overseas. The 3rd step is getting your resources together and getting yourself overseas. So once you've picked how you want to do your training, the TESOL or TEFL certificate course, these are the other things that you need to be doing besides just learning how to be a good teacher. Make a timeline for yourself on, okay, when do I want to leave? And then work backward from there, because I'm not going to lie, it's daunting to pack up your whole life and move overseas, even if it's only temporarily. So it can totally be done. Don't think you can't do it, but you do need to be a little bit organized on your time and figuring out, okay, when will I have to quit my job, and when will I have to pack things up, and when will I have to sell my car, whatever it might be. So make a timeline for yourself. That's going to help you keep yourself organized, and it's going to really make your life easier. Writing your resume and getting your documents together. So of course, just get everything in one file and on your computer. Your certificates, your diplomas, your resume, get it all together so that when you're ready to apply for those jobs, you have everything easy and you don't have to go looking for it. It's all in one spot. Do some research on different locations of where you want to teach. And I'm going to send you a little little help with that. But really the whole world is open. So research where you want to go. What is life like there? What can you expect to earn? What can you expect your life to be like? And see what fits for you. See what makes sense for you in the kind of experience that you want to have. Okay. What else? Job search. That kind of goes with the location search, but start looking at jobs, start looking at what's out there, maybe do some interviews, and don't be afraid to turn down a job. If something seems wrong or it's just not what you want, don't worry about it. I've had so many people come to me and say, oh, I just got this job and they offered it to me and I don't want to turn it down because what if nothing else comes? If it doesn't seem right for you, just move on and find something else. I know people who have been super picky about the job that they wanted because they really had in their head that they wanted to work with a certain age level or business English versus, something else. And so be picky and wait for what you're looking for. Looking language and cultural information. This is something, it's always helpful to do a little research before you get somewhere about the language and the culture and the body language. You're still going to fall into doing things that make you look crazy or saying something wrong in the new language, but being a little bit prepared in advance can be really helpful and can make your transition easier. So do that cultural information study, look up stuff about where you're going, figure out, what you need to know, and talk to somebody who lives there. You'll find somebody online there, definitely. Ask to talk to one of the teachers in the school that you're getting hired at, or find someone else who lives in that town or that area of the world, and get them on Skype and ask them some questions. What do I wear or not wear? What were some of the hard things? What are the things they wish they had with them? And that can help you a lot, just to feel like you know what you're getting into. So I always suggest trying to do that as much as you can. There are plenty of travel tips online, and especially if you're packing for a year, that can be a little daunting, figuring out what to take and how to pack it, how to send it or ship it, or there's lots of places you can find that information. So again, don't feel overwhelmed. Other people have done this before you, and you can do it too. So there's lots of stuff out there. There's even information on how to pack your bags the best way to fit the most stuff in. So you can figure all this stuff out. And this is just the logistic stuff that's going to get you where you're going. So those are really the basic steps for doing this. I know it sounds like a big thing sometimes to move overseas, but it's really a series of small and easy steps that can get you there to have an amazing experience teaching in another part of the world. Or, like Kelly, teaching in the US. So let me get back to her question real quick. Kelly says, I would like to help immigrants adapt to US living. Any specific training for this type of TESOL? Kelly, I do that here in Greenville, South Carolina, where I am. And I did it with a TESOL certificate. And there are lots of things that you can add on to that. So if you're looking at a higher ed, you might look into things like intercultural training, intercultural communications. All of those things can be helpful add-ons to a TESOL program. Most of the resources that we use in this are already geared toward that. So even just finding an English book to use in your class, that is for immigrants, where the lessons are set up, like Unit 1 is family, and Unit 2 is your community, and Unit 3 is getting a job. It really goes through all of the steps that someone needs to take in order to live and get organized and get comfortable living in the US. So even just using those kinds of books can help you to do that. And then especially if you're working with a certain group, so I don't know a lot about your situation, but maybe you speak Portuguese and you want to work specifically with Brazilians or with Latin Americans, Brazilians, people from South America, your knowledge of those cultures and how they differ from US culture is invaluable. and your knowledge of the language can help as well. So you can really help people just because of what you already know about, oh, I know that things here in Brazil are done this way, and I know in the US they're done that way. And bringing that kind of information into your class is super helpful in helping people to get themselves organized, get their lives organized as an immigrant to the US. Okay, please, everybody, if you have more questions, go ahead and put them in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and talk to me directly. That's another way. We're almost done, so go ahead and do that if you're ready. I'll tell you a little bit about our next course. I would love to have you join us if this is something that seems like a good fit for you. Our next class starts on May 15th and ends on June 28th. That's the course, the 100-hour course part. And then the practicum component, everybody's a little bit different because they're working with actual language schools. So we have to, everybody's got a different schedule and a different program. The format of our class is blended, and that means that we meet on Tuesday evenings from 6 to 9 usually, and we meet 4 Tuesdays. We meet in class using this same platform, but we usually show our faces so we can all see each other. We meet and have class online, and then during the week you're completing assignments on the website, and it's discussion groups and readings and all of the stuff that you do to study for a class. Then we meet the next Tuesday in class again. We do have a face-to-face component to the class, as I mentioned, and it's going to be 1 week intensive, so Monday through Friday, every day, Monday through Friday. And you can complete that week either in Charleston, South Carolina, or in Greenville, South Carolina. And both of them are beautiful and amazing places, especially at this time of year. So I know not all of you are local here to us, and we've had plenty of people come in from other cities and other countries that want to take this class. The blended format works really well for that because you really only have to be here Monday through Friday, and the rest you're completing from wherever you are. If you want to come into town and do this class with us, we would love that, and I will help you to figure out a good place to stay, how to get around, and really, Greenville and Charleston are both beautiful cities, and you would have a wonderful time in either place. We'll help you figure it out. So the tuition for our program is $23.97, and that includes all the things that I mentioned before. I see a question, so let me jump up here and ask that. Oh, Kelly, yes. Happy to help as much as I can. Yes, so you would come to either Greenville or Charleston for your week intensive, and the tuition is $23.97. Now, I do want to say thank you for sticking with me through this class. You've been quiet, most of you, so I don't know if you have any questions. Please ask them if you do. But I do want to say thank you. I hope it has been helpful to you in understanding a little bit more about the process and helping you figure out what kind of program you might want to do. If you would like to take our program, I want to give you a little thank you. I already asked you if you have questions, so we'll move on. I'll come back to this one. I want to give you a little thank you for listening today, and that is a discount on the course if you want to sign up for our summer course. I'm going to send you all a resource guide to finding overseas job. It's just a document that has a lot of websites that our graduates have used to find jobs. So go ahead and get started with that research part. Start looking at what's out there. Start deciding what kind of certificate you want to have. And, it really, every time I start looking at those, I'm like, where can I go teach next? So it really gets me excited to do this. So I'm going to send that to you by email. And I have another course called How to Teach English Online. And that's much shorter than the TESOL certificate course. It's something we developed because teaching English online right now is a big deal. And people were graduating from our TESOL certificate course saying, I learned so much about teaching in class and communicative language teaching and how to get people to talk and work in groups and teach grammar, but I'm going to be teaching online and it's just going to be one person, and I'm trying to build a career for myself where I'm location independent and I can teach people from different locations. So we created this separate course. And it's to build on a TESOL certificate course. So we're assuming that you're already comfortable teaching. And in how to teach English online, we are teaching you how to market yourself in the online teaching world, how to figure out where your students are, how to connect with them, and how to keep them. The technology, so how to transition from face-to-face classroom to an online environment, how to get comfortable doing basically what I'm doing with you right now, talking into a little hole in the top of your computer, that is the camera, and how to connect with your students, even though you're on another continent maybe. And also gives you templates on how to do an online class, how to do all the different aspects of it. So that's a separate class. It's totally online, and it's usually $300, $297, and I would love for you to have it as a thank you for sticking with me and watching this video with us. So yeah, there it is. So the basic certificate course is $23.97, and then the online course is $297. And you have to do this fast if you want to take advantage of this, because I'm going to have to get all the tech set back up for the final week. If you register for class by Wednesday, today's Monday, so you have 2 days, then it'll be $22.47 for both of the courses. I don't like doing the math in these kinds of things when people start throwing numbers at me, and then I'm like trying to figure it all out. So I just did it for you on this slide. $22.47 for both the TESOL program and the How to Teach English Online course. So I would love for you to be a part of that if you're interested. I'm going to back up to this slide. This is just a reminder of what our TESOL program includes. It starts with 2 coaching sessions on getting organized and started on your job search. It's a 100-hour course with a 30-hour practicum. It includes all your course materials except for 1 textbook. If you're eligible, you can qualify for 6 graduate credits, which would happen through the College of Charleston, which is a huge money saver and time saver if you can apply that to future graduate programs. You get the bonus resume writing workshop and the one-on-one coaching with the resume writer, and lifetime access to us, to the community of graduates who are all really cool people. And I keep in touch with a lot of folks, and I love hearing where they are, what they're doing. And of course, you get discounts for all of our future trainings as well. So let me tell you one last story. This is about a student of mine. I don't think I have his picture here. These are some other pictures that students have sent me from their teaching and traveling. My first time I ran this class was in 2004. And I had a guy in there who had just graduated from college. He was a business and Spanish major. And he decided he wanted to teach overseas for a year before he came back and got his MBA or did something in the business world. So he took the TESOL certificate course, and he's still in language teaching. So he ended up living in Bolivia for a year and a half or so. He was in the Peace Corps. He actually was in small business development, but the TESOL certificate helped him to get placed in the Peace Corps because it's super competitive. And while he was there, he learned Spanish. He lived in Bolivia. He helped indigenous communities start small businesses. Then he moved to Japan, and he taught in the JET program for a couple years. He didn't speak any Japanese, but he does now. In fact, he went back and did the toast at his best friend's wedding in Japanese. So he had an experience living there for a couple of years. He also lived in Brazil, taught in Brazil, speaks Portuguese, Spanish, Japanese, and he was teaching, I haven't talked to him in a little while now. He was teaching Spanish at a school near Washington, D.C. Because his Spanish was practically fluent, so he could get a job as a Spanish teacher. And he went back and got his master's degree in something language related. Was it Spanish teaching or English teaching? I'm not sure. But he just, I always laugh. I said, well, you said it was a year. Like, I know, but it's really awesome. It's so much fun. Such a great way to spend your working time in life, because you're actually making a difference. You're helping people, you're changing lives, you're having a good time, and you get to travel and meet people from all over the world. So these are some pictures from students of mine. On the left, that's Meg. She was teaching in Hungary. In the middle, I believe that is from Palestine. And on the right, can you guess by the language? I believe it's Thailand. So these are pictures that some of our grads have sent me. And I'll leave you with a quote and a thank you and a wish for you to have great luck and enjoy the pursuit of your global adventures and language teaching. My quote for you is, travel is more than the seeing of sights. It's a change that goes on deep and permanent in the ideas of living. And I wish that for you and for your students that you're going to be working with, because even if the travel doesn't happen, learning a language changes your ideas, deep and permanent in your ideas of living. So good luck to all of you. I'm going to be sending you a follow-up email with the resource that I mentioned, and just respond to that email if you have any other questions for me. I can answer them by email, or we can set up a time to chat. I'm happy to do that. And I would love for you to join us in our upcoming course starting in May, if it's the right fit for you. So let me know if you're in another part of the world and you want to come here to do your week-long face-to-face. I would love to have you. I'll help you figure it out. Come and see us. And thank you again. And don't forget, the whole world is waiting for you. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a great rest of your evening.